This episode of the MLB Guardcast is sponsored by Sadnap Studios. Are you in need of assistance when it comes to digital arts, logo creation, website design, brand building, or designing merch? Then look no further than Sadnap Studios. The team at Sadnap Studios wants to help and make your dreams into reality. Everything is original and organically created, nothing AI. You can follow them and check out some of their incredible work on Instagram at sadnap_studios_art drop. Thanks again to the folks at Sadnap Studios. Go Guards. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and everyone in between, it's time for yet another episode of the MLB Guardcast. This episode 30. I am Mike Vorhies. I'm joined with Bryan Shaw, as always. Bryan, can you make it stop being so hot outside? I know you're a meteorologist. Can you do something about it, please?
Didn't you tell me to stop the rain last
I
time we
did.
were on?
I did.
Well, the
Don't you have
rain
that power?
stopped.
I thought that's what meteorologists could do. I thought you could control that
So
stuff.
what's this range that you need between
Can we get it like 75-ish?
and no
Like
rain?
not as humid. Like just take the humidity away for Pete's sake. It's hot outside.
Yeah, it's brutal. It is brutal.
But you
But
know
you know
what's
what else
not
is hot?
brutal? That's the Cleveland Guardians. I love it. We were both thinking the same thing. We are still 20 games over 500, 46 and 26. Bryan, cue up the all they do is win series. That's all we do. That we just keep winning. And when it seems like we're down and out, we keep winning. And it's a different guy every night. You've got Josh Naylor now starting to heat up. I am really falling in love with Silly Willie, with Will Brennan. He's slowly showing signs of life. I mean, and Jose's not hitting well, so this is kind of a unique time for
Are
us.
you a Schneemann demon?
You know what? I assumed you'd have the shirt or something today. You let me down a little bit.
No,
But I am.
I've got the Mario
I love
jump.
it. I love it. That's awesome. I will take it. I will run with it. I'm rocking my CLE shirt today as well. The what can we say about these Guardians? Like Stephen Kwan, he's not human. I've determined this. He's a robot. He's got
It's
to be
his
a
league.
robot.
He better make
We're
the
just
All-Star game. That's all
watching.
I've got to say.
Yeah, don't get it. We'll talk about the All-Star game here in a little bit. But Bryan, all we do is win since we last recorded on the 6th of June. We split with Kansas City, although we only played 2 games. One was taken away due to rain. It'll be made up later this year. We beat the Miami Marlins. I always want to say Florida Marlins. I don't like the Miami part. We split with the Reds. Again, we only played 2 games for the Ohio Cup. We'll get 2 more in Cleveland soon. And then we lost to Toronto, our first series loss since,
Colorado?
yes, since the Rockies. That's different. That's weird for
Yeah,
me to say.
playing down to their opponent a little bit in both of those series. Colorado, I think the road trip started to get to them. Possibly the same thing with Toronto. We have Toronto here for the weekend. I believe
We do.
all the games are either almost sold out or going to be sold out. Tomorrow is Josh
Yes.
Naylor bobblehead day.
I know you'll
Um,
be there.
I
I'm
will
sure
be
you'll be
there.
there.
I will be there for the Josh Naylor bobblehead. Um, and it's going to be very hot and humid, so I expect some fireworks. And let's keep hitting because there was a stretch there with losing the last two to Toronto and then getting their butts whooped in the first game against Seattle, where they were on a skid, a 3-game skid there that
Yeah.
just didn't look good. And thankfully, they won the next night and then they win the day game. So you had a nice
Yes.
quick turnaround of like you can go from being in the basement feeling bad about this team to all of a sudden you're like, okay, what was I worried about? They're fine. But I do think that there is a sentiment of people just kind of keep waiting for the wheels to fall off when it comes to the pitching staff or these guys that you wouldn't think were going to be heroes, like your David Fries and your Daniel Schneemans, they're waiting for the glass slipper, I think, to fall off, and
Hmm.
you keep thinking like, oh, this might be it. This might be where things start to turn, and then it doesn't, and then they surprise you again, and then they
Right.
keep winning. Like you said, they keep winning series. Seattle's a good team.
They are very good. Yes.
Toronto is having a down year, but I thought of that series a bit like the Astros series. Yes, they're having a down year, but it's still the Astros. It's still
Yeah.
Toronto. There's still a lot of good players
And
on
I'm
that
sure
team.
someone's still beating on a trash can somewhere for Houston. So as
uh,
long as there's a trash can, I don't ever count out Houston.
but there's a lot to like. This team is just keep grinding and keep grinding and finding ways to win. Stephen Vogt's pushing the right buttons with the lineups. We did have some roster moves since we last recorded.
We did. You want to walk us through it? You're on a roll. I'm letting you go here.
Oh, okay. Well, you
You're
usually
carrying it right now.
you're the roster breakdown guy. I'm gonna have to pull this
No.
off the top of my head. So
All
I
right,
think the
let's see
big
how
one
you do.
was Kyle Manzardo getting optioned,
Yeah, so we
and
had a few roster moves for you got to talk about Jose. He went on the paternity list, so he
yes,
missed the last two games of the Toronto series.
yes,
He welcomed his
that's the other
second
part of it.
child.
So
Yeah, he welcomed his second child.
not having Jose in the lineup clearly changes the lineup. And I think
Hmm.
that was also part of the Toronto series and that little bit of a letdown. Yeah, so they brought back Jonathan Rodriguez when Jose went down. And then you would have expected that when Jose came back, that Rodriguez would have went back down to AAA. He was up here briefly earlier in the year, but they didn't. They optioned Kyle Manzardo instead. And some people were surprised by that. I wasn't really
Hmm.
because I don't feel like they were really using him. He was strictly playing DH. He wasn't playing first base. He should be playing first base, some. And clearly, Stephen Vogt values guys who can play multiple positions. And that's David Fry and Daniel Schneemann right now. And even a little bit of Gabriel Arias, who we haven't seen, I feel like, in quite some time. So you hate to say it, but Kyle Manzardo was kind of in a tough spot, and I think he is better served to go down to AAA, work on some things, and get everyday at bats. Now, there was a stretch there where he was just ripping doubles constantly, and I think
Right.
he's like second or third on the team in doubles, and he was only here a month. So that was a little bit of a surprise, maybe not a surprise in some instances, but that's a move they made. And, Tito always valued the guys that could play multiple positions. And I think Stephen Vogt values that even more.
Yeah,
And
we joke and use the term Swiss Army knife, but that's pretty much what he's looking for. He wants to be able to plug and play, and we saw it in the day game yesterday with Seattle, where Jose DH'd and Daniel Schneemann started at third base.
and
Like
Schneeman's
it's
played
you.
shortstop and he's played center field.
He
So
played right field as well. I think one game.
so he's
I
been all
think
over the
so.
place,
Was
the same as
yeah.
David Fry's been all over the place at catcher, at first base, at third base. So with Kyle Manzardo kind of being stuck as a DH, where I guess I had kind of read something along the lines of Josh doesn't like DHing because it takes it's a mind thing for him. He's more
Hmm.
involved in the game. He has better at bats. He feels like when he's also playing first base. So you could argue he took quite the bump yesterday and was a little hurt. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if he's DHing today. To
Yeah,
give him a
it'll
little bit of a
be
rest.
game starts tonight at 7. I'm waiting to see the roster won't get released or the lineup won't get released until around 4 o'clock. I think you're right. I think Josh will probably DH and David Fry will play first base. That's my initial assumption. Although Gabriel Arias could play first base potentially. Like you said, we haven't seen Gabriel Arias. Um, so it'll be interesting. I wasn't shocked when Kyle got sent down. I think he does need to play every day. He wasn't playing every day here. And I think it's one of those things where you have so many players and only so many at bats, and there's going to be an odd guy out. And so Manzardo gets sent back down where he can play every day at AAA and AAA, get as many at bats as he can get back into that mindset. he's not gone forever, folks. He'll be back. There's no
Yeah.
doubt in my mind. He's a very highly rated prospect in our organization. He'll be back. And
Injuries
with Jonathan
happen.
Rodriguez, yeah, they just want to see if Jonathan Rodriguez can hit. They sent him back down and he was tearing the cover off the ball again. That's why he came back up.
Well, and there's something to be said for that because we're getting closer and closer to the trade deadline. And I'd say
Yep.
if there's a position that they need, it's a right-handed stick in the outfield that we've been probably talking about for since Jay Bruce. And
Yeah. Agreed.
you kind of have to figure out could Jonathan Rodriguez be that guy? Like if he goes on an Oscar Gonzalez 2022 type of tear, okay, that's one less trade that you have to make if you trust him.
Right.
So there's something to be said for that too. We did see another injury stint. Nick Sandlin going on the
Yeah. The
15-day IL
Sandman,
has
Sandman
a little
is
bit of a
out.
back problem. Uh, he got rocked after whose outing was that? Was that Ben Lively's outing
No, it was
on
he
Father's
came in
Day?
for I'm trying to think. That would have been the Toronto series. I believe it was Lively.
Yeah,
I'm
well, somebody loaded
I'm pretty sure
whoever
it
the
was
starter was
Lively.
loaded the bases.
Yeah.
Sandlin came in, who's had a pretty good season. Unfortunately, gives up the grand slam. Immediately loads up the bases again. So obviously he was feeling something and wasn't himself, and he goes on the injured list. So you call up Darren McCoffin. I think that's how you pronounce
Oh,
his name.
McCawkin. It
McCocken,
is McCawkin. Yes. I think
who
he
had a
uh,
stint with the Miami Marlins
mhm.
earlier in the year and then got brought on with the Guardians. I'm sure he's possibly here temporarily. He was a starter in Columbus for us. I don't know if they're going to try to start him. I kind of hope not,
I
because
think he's here for long. He's a guy that can eat a few innings, similar to Pedro Avila. And I
now,
think again, we're gonna have to make some roster moves because there's another arm that's coming.
yeah,
We
Gavin
got to make room
Williams
for him.
is having his final rehab start tonight, I believe,
Yep,
in
in
Akron.
Akron.
And then they're gonna have to make a roster move. Now we keep talking about I keep trying to cut Pedro Avila, and I think I owe him an apology at this point because
You probably
he has
do.
really, really looked nice, I'd say, in the last 3 weeks to a month, in that inning eating role. And but the
I
thing
want to
is,
know what his earn run average is in San Diego and what it is here. Because I think here his earn run average is like less than 3. When he was out in San Diego, I know it was like 6. That's why they designated him for assignment.
I
I know you are our
can
resident. You're
I
our
can look
resident
that up real quick.
statistician.
Give me a moment.
Yeah, no worries.
Um,
We can. I did pull up the box score from the Sunday
yes,
game. So Lively went 4 innings, and then Sandlin came in and didn't record a single out.
yeah, and gave up like
Barlow came in, and
quite a
yeah,
few earned
it.
runs. Yes,
Yep,
Pedro Avila's ERA with Cleveland is a 3.18. No, sorry. Uh it's a two
that's see,
six, 2.6
see
ERA.
under 3. I told you, Pedro
Yeah.
Vila, guys. He's been a weird diamond in the rough for us. I think.
Well, he started off shaky and has improved. Now, you we're talking about Carrasco in a tough decision. With
Yeah,
every time we talk about this, somebody gets injured and they haven't had to make that tough decision.
yeah.
So it's McCawkin that's going to go down or get DFA'd when Gavin Williams comes back. It's probably not going to be
That's
Carrasco because Carrasco had a nice outing last time. He does start tonight, and we'll see
he
how that outing
does.
goes. But he had a nice outing last time. I just don't think that they can afford, regardless of his ERA, like if he can get you 4 or 5 innings in a start, that's what you need from him.
Yeah,
And
and
I
I
don't think they
think
can afford to get rid of a starter.
well, and we're going to go into the starting pitching real quick. I mean, obviously that's an issue. I think as a fan, that's on my top of the wish list right now is a starting pitcher because Tristan McKenzie didn't have it the other night. He left his start after what 3 innings against the Mariners on
I don't even think
Tuesday.
he made it 3. I think it was like 2 1/3.
Yeah, he didn't have it at all. Just the control was nowhere to be found, and Seattle was kind of teeing off on him a little bit. You have Ben Lively, who left his previous start, not the one on Sunday, but the one before that, where he felt some tightness in his forearm, and we're like, oh no,
Was it forearm?
Ben Live. I thought it was forearm
because
tightness. I thought they were an
I feel like I
elbow.
never saw anything definitive on where his tightness was. Now, Ben Lively is I think only like 32, so it's not quite Carrasco old, but I took that as he sat a long time. The Guardians, I think in the sixth inning, because I was at that game, they had several runs. It was a long inning. He sat for like a half hour,
Mhm.
and I think it was just kind of well, he's tightening up at that point. You're sitting that long after exercising, after
Right.
working out. You might cramp up a little bit, so they tested him out. He was fine, and but I do understand what you're saying that yes, starting pitching is a concern because the length hasn't been there, and you've got a lot of question marks with a lot of guys.
Well, and we talk about obviously Ben Lively. We pick him up as a Rule 5 type. Find him as he was a spring training invitee, makes the roster. He played for Cincinnati last year. I mean, we've kind of turned him around, in my opinion. Looks like a completely different pitcher. Then you have Logan Allen, who this shocked me when I was typing up the notes for the show today. Logan Allen has won 8 games, folks. 8 games, but he has an earn run average just south of 6. It's
So
like 5.93 or
yeah,
something.
and you had texted me about Logan Allen, and
Last night he frustrates me because I think he could be a really good pitcher. He just doesn't have his control sometimes. He goes and overthrows,
yeah.
and like he's trying to shoot it over, whether it's David Fry, Austin Hedges, or Bo Naylor, whoever's catching, they're not 10 feet tall. And I just don't know if it's he's trying too hard or he's trying something new. I don't know.
So
it doesn't look like he's comfortable sometimes.
if you go back to May with Logan Allen, he has 9 starts. And there's
Okay.
2 duds in there where he gave up 7 earned runs. One of them was in Colorado where he got absolutely rocked, gave up 7 runs in an inning and 2/3. If you go back to just May 12th and you eliminate the Colorado game, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have 6 games. He's given up 9 earned runs in those 6 games and averages just under 6 innings per start. So there is potential there. And it's kind of the same thing as Carrasco. You kind of just got to take the lumps sometimes because
Yeah.
he's one of the few guys that at times can give you the length and rest the
Well,
bullpen a little bit.
what made me laugh is what did you text me back when I said
Beggars
I
can't
want to
be choosers.
strangle Logan Allen? But yeah, that's the thing. Beggars can't be choosers. In this rotation where we've lost Shane Bieber, Gavin Williams hasn't even pitched for us yet. The homecoming for Cookie Carrasco has not been what we thought it would be. Tristan still doesn't look right. Um, Ben Lively's looked great at times. I don't think he's had a bad start yet this year. And then our the lone bright spot that we have for the Guardians rotation, and he's been our de facto ace, and that's Tanner Bybee. He's been insane. I
Yeah.
love Tanner Bybee. He just continues to impress me each time he goes out. He takes the hill. He
Well,
had
they
12 strikeouts the other day. That's a new career high for him, and he's got it going right now.
they clearly did not when they went into the season, they clearly did not expect Gavin Williams to miss half the year. When
Right,
they told us about his injury and they said he was messing around and awkwardly threw a weighted ball and he felt a little bit of tightness in his elbow. I don't think anybody expected him to miss half the season.
right.
I think there was the potential that, Bieber could miss time and or could, potentially have this. But there's just a lot that they couldn't predict. I'm sure if they knew Shane Bieber was going to go down, you don't trade Cal Quantrill. I mean, Colorado's in the tank. Maybe they trade back for Cal Quantrill
It's
and then
so
only have to
funny
pay half of
because
his salary.
I was saving this for later, and I knew you were going to go at it. Uh, in the latest trade rumor report, it does say that the Guardians could be interested in a reunion with Cal
I mean,
Quantrill,
if
and
it was a
I
money
just
thing, if it was
started
a money thing
laughing.
before, then you get him for half a season at half his salary.
I just, it's what when I saw that, I'm like, Brian's gonna have a field day with this. So
Well,
yeah,
I mean, at the time
we
the
do need
move
to do
made
something.
sense. At the
Hmm.
time, the move made sense because when you looked at what the rotation was supposed to be, Cal was number 6.
Yeah, he was the
And
odd man
then
out,
you brought in
unfortunately.
Ben Lively instead to be number 6. Now, unfortunately, injuries have pushed those guys up. And what are you going to do? So you got to adjust. Yeah, maybe you go get Cal. You probably can trade for him for cheap. And then you go get like Luzardo, right? In
Yeah,
Miami. Yeah.
Jesus Luzardo.
Somebody
It would be
somebody like
interesting
that.
to have Luzardo and Manzardo on the same team. That'd be kind of fun. I don't know if Miami's going to give him up for cheap. I think it may actually take a
No, no,
little
that's going to
bit
cost
to
something.
pry him away.
But
Right.
I'm at the point with this team that I'm tired of hearing about prospects.
Yeah.
Go get some talent. Let's make a run. Let's go do
It's
this.
funny that you say prospects, because I have to ask, what are we doing at shortstop? What are we doing? We have had a revolving door at shortstop where it was Brian Rocchio. He won the job out of spring training. I guess you could say won in quotes. Hasn't really done a lot to lock that position down. Then you go, okay, well, Gabriel Arias can play a little bit of short. And defensively, those two, Rocchio and Arias, have been outstanding. They've made a ton of plays. However, in an offensive game where we need them to hit, neither one of them have eye-popping numbers that are like, wow, how do we play them both? No, neither one of them are hitting well. You call up Daniel Schneemann. I don't think anybody thought he was going to be our shortstop, but he's played well at short and he's hit. So what do we do? I mean, what can we do? You say that the trade deadline is soon. We're about what, August? I think, is it August 1st
And
this year?
end of July, yeah, July 31st or
Yeah.
something like that, or August 1st, yeah.
What do we
So
do?
I think I mean, you still have time, and I think you play it out because here's why. If you look at Rocchio's June numbers, he's starting to come around.
Okay. See,
Brian
this is why
Rocchio
you are
has an 814
the
OPS
resident
in June.
statistician.
He has an 814 OPS in June.
Okay, that is fantastic.
You started to see him come around, or at least I noticed he was starting to come around. A couple of doubles, a couple of hits, had that home run, and I was curious. I was like, oh, let's see. So it was a small sample size. It was like 9 games, and then he just kind of kept going. Uh, his WRC plus for June is 135, so 35% above average.
That's yeah,
You ride
that
that
we
train.
need that.
You
Right.
ride that train. Same thing with Schneemann. Schneemann's hitting. You ride that train, whether it's at shortstop or at center field. He can play multiple positions. You just keep going with these hot bats until they're not hot anymore, and then you make that
Yeah.
decision. If Rocchio stays consistent and continues to play well, he doesn't have to play at 135 WRC plus clip. But if he starts to bring that average up to where overall he's an average hitter, kind of like Will Brennan has done in recent weeks. His WRC plus for the season is now above 100. I think you stick with him. Another guy that I think there was some concerns about, and you're starting to see a little bit of a turnaround. And from what I recall or read, this guy was resting for a while. We weren't seeing him play for a little bit, and it from I don't know if it was rumors or if it was from an article, so I apologize, but that they were working on his swing in the cages, and that's why he was getting some days off. Didn't go down to AAA, but he was working on his swing a little bit and working on some technique things. And since he had started to get regular at bats again, so this guy in the last 7 games, 21 at bats, has brought his average up to 240 and his on base is 273. So we're at about a 600 OPS. So much better. Oh, sorry. No, 700 OPS. Did my math wrong.
Okay.
700 OPS, which is about league average. Bo Naylor in the last 7 games has a 700 OPS. So there was concerns there because he was looking lost there for a bit.
Yeah. He was looking
And
lost, and you were worried if the Guardians would say, hey, you know what, maybe we need to send him back to AAA. David Fry can play catcher, Austin Hedges could play catcher. We could call up Dom Nunez or one of the other catchers
Brian
in the minor league
Lavastida.
system.
Yeah.
Yep. And they didn't do that, which I think I'm very thankful. They're not
Yeah.
giving up on Bo,
They just
and
gave him
he's
a
starting
break.
to show. Yep, he's starting to
And
show that he can hit the ball.
he had 2 hits the other day, a on a rope double and then another hit. So there's a couple of guys that are starting to come around. Now, there is one player that I've mentioned, 2 guys that are having great Junes, Jimenez and Bo Naylor starting to come around. His is more recent, but there is somebody that needs to really step up and is having just an abysmal June, and that's Andreas Jimenez. He
Yeah,
he's
Jimenez,
he's
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 missing in
in a
action right
slump.
now.
He's been in a slump. I think yesterday he hit a home run yesterday.
He
So
did,
maybe
and
maybe he's getting out of it.
it looked as if he knew it was coming. He teed off on it. I mean, belt high, he turned on it, sent it into the bleachers, and that's what put the guards ahead for good.
But
I
even with that home run, his OPS for the month is only a 450.
Yeah, it's not great. He has swung at a lot of bad pitches. He has grounded out a ton. We need him to be all-star Andres Jimenez
Yeah, the
real
one
soon.
that
He got to find it.
the at bat that really bugged me and made me look up to see what he was doing in June was in that Seattle series. Uh, the bases were loaded, or he had guys in scoring position, and if he had just gotten a hit, like it would have
Yeah,
made that game a lot closer. And it was just really because then you have Jose up next. And it was just really disappointing that he couldn't squeeze something out of there. And like you said, just swung at just awful
yeah.
pitches, sliders that are going down and away, or curveballs that are dropping into the dirt. And I really hope he turns it around because I love Andres Jimenez, and I'm not trying to harp on him, but it's just, I mean, the stats are the stats that he's just not having a good June. So
No,
hopefully he turns that around. Um, so I think right now votes pushing the right buttons. They're still winning. I don't think you got to
he's
make a lot
he's
of moves
not
and changes at the
he's
moment.
not the lead candidate for manager of the year for nothing. And he's taking a Guardians team that no one gave a shot,
Yeah,
saying that they would be where they're at. We're 46 and 26. He's done everything that he can. Yes, he's made some questionable decisions, and we've laughed and we've pushed it off to, oh, he's a rookie coach and he's learning. For the most part, though, he has been dialed in. I'd really love for him to figure out who our 2-hole hitter is and just leave it alone. Sometimes it's Freeman, sometimes it's Jimenez. I've seen Jose in two, and I'm like, what are we
I
doing?
I
Let's
think they're
find something that
rotating
works.
they're rotating Freeman and Jimenez based on handedness.
Maybe
Um, well,
David Fry's been locked in the 5 spot. Naylor's sitting cleanup, which is fine. I just pick somebody in the 2-hole, leave it. That's the thing.
yeah,
Especially like for a guy like Jimenez, if he's having such a tough month, I wouldn't have him hitting 2. Drop him in the order. Put him at like 7 so he's not pressing and he can just do what he does.
but so then who's the 2 hole?
I would put Tyler Freeman in at the 2 spot. I think he proved himself when Stephen Kwan was out. He showed that he can hit, whether he was leading off, whether he was in the 2-hole. He showed what he could do. So if you have Kwan at 1, and Kwan's on pace to hit 400 all season, I think. Uh, you put Freeman at 2, Jose at 3, Naylor at 4, Fry at 5. 6 is Will Brennan. If it's not Will Brennan, then it's Jonathan Rodriguez, based on who's starting. 7th would then be Andres Jimenez. 8 would be Daniel Schneemann, wherever he's playing, if he's playing. And then 9 is who's catching.
When
And
I
that's
hear
how I
something
would rock with it.
when I hear something interesting, so I had mentioned that they were kind of rotating based on handedness. I quickly pulled up Tyler Freeman's lefty righty splits.
He's better against lefties than righties, correct? Or vice versa?
He is exactly identical when it comes to OPS. He has a 659 against both.
Then he needs to play every day. I think he's earned that. He's played outstanding center field. He's been a wizard defensively, and he has had some huge hits this season. I think he should be playing every day. I really do.
Well, yeah, I mean, and if you need to spell them, you've got guys, Schneemann's been out there, and then occasionally Arias can go out in center field. So You have the opportunity to swap guys around. But in terms of you're saying, you asked, well, what do we do? I think right now you're fine. I think you do need a starter, maybe two. A starter to get you through the rest of the season, and then a starter that you're confident that can make starts in the playoffs. Because if you trade for Cal Quantrill, I'm not confident in him to start a playoff game. He's to help you through the rest of the season. And then I think you need a right-handed right fielder. Finally, somebody with some power that you could plug into 5 or 6
Mhm.
and just that guy that we've been asking for forever.
2017 is when Bruce played
Jay
here,
Bruce, yeah.
correct?
And
Jay
then they
Bruce
got
played here.
Puig. I think they got Puig in
I
18.
liked Yasiel Puig, but he just didn't hit like I thought he would.
So
And we got to figure it out. And again, I agree with you 100%. It doesn't happen often where the two of us agree on something like this, but I'm tired of hearing about prospects as well. We have a ton of them. Guess what?
yeah, go make
It's
some
time to
moves.
put up or shut up because we want to win and we want to keep winning. And I would like to see this team begin that quote unquote dynasty run. I think we have the pieces to do it. What are we waiting for? Honestly, can we put a deal together? You know the teams that are not in competition this year. You know the teams that aren't doing well, and teams that are looking to unload salary. Those are the teams that you target and go
Yeah,
get a guy or a pitcher or package and get a pitcher and a hitter. Do something.
I think
I
I
want to just
think
poke them. Let's go.
I understand what you're saying, and ideally you would want them to make a deal sooner rather than later, not wait until the deadline. But I do think you probably have to wait for a couple of more teams to hit towards that bottom part where they are going to make moves, because then that does free up more possibly available guys, because everybody is going to want a Lizardo.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's going to want a Cal Quantrill. Um, so there's going to be other teams that are in for these services. So if you have more teams that are willing to trade, that price might come down a little bit. And it
I'm
could
gonna
be,
throw. I know we're running out of time. I'm gonna throw two names at you that I think we need to watch. And we've traded with this team quite a bit. We got Kyle Manzardo from them. We have a great relationship with them. The Tampa Bay Rays, good friend, Aaron Zavali, outfielder, Randy Arozarena. I'm just saying,
I would love a
Tampa Bay's not going
Rosarena.
to compete. Tampa Bay's not competing in that division this year. They're not. The Yankees are great. Baltimore is great. Boston's good. I mean, Toronto's kind of fallen off, and Tampa's fallen off.
So what does Tampa ask back for Savali? They want Manzardo. Do you have to give him back
No,
Manzardo?
I don't think Savali's done well. I think his ERA is over 6 as well. So I don't
So
necessarily think it may take as
so you
much
trade
because
you trade Savali, you trade for Savali instead of like Quantrill is what you're saying. He's not a
potentially
starter. He's not a
Quantrill's,
start against the Yankees kind of starter. He's a get you through the rest of the season
yeah,
starter.
Quantrill statistically is better, but I agree with you. We need somebody that's going to help us win a playoff game. Tanner Bybee can't start every game. If Tristan McKenzie can figure it out and you can get Bybee and Tristan and Lively, those three, if they can continue to do what they do, and then you need a fourth starter for the playoffs, there you go.
Yeah.
That's where you get Cal Quantrill, Aaron Savali. If you can pull off Jesus Luzardo, then my goodness, that's incredible.
I mean, if you
But
could pull off Randy Rosarena, I mean,
he's struggling this year. I know he's hitting about 200. So, but I know what playoff a Rosarena does, and I'd like to see him in a Cleveland uniform. Why not? I don't think it hurts. Depending on how much is left on his contract, I know he's coming up, I think, close to being a free agent. So we'll take it. I mean, that's
yeah,
kind of what we need to do.
you're right. He is struggling a little bit, but he still has a 650 OPS and 10 home runs. So, if you give him a little bit of a lineup protection with, Josh Naylor and Jose and David Fry and, Andreas Jimenez, if as he starts to turn it around, yeah, that could be something. And he has a
He's
track
hitting a
record.
buck
I mean,
86, so
he
we'll see.
has his OPS has been close to 800 4 of his last 5 years. And then
Yeah.
2020, the shortened season, he had OPS over 1.
Change
So
of scenery could do him well.
yeah,
Come to Cleveland. We'll love on you.
he was in trade rumors in the offseason, and
He was.
I wanted the Guardians to go get him then. So
We'll see what we can do.
I think I hope they have something big up their sleeve. I'm excited to see it. It's a great time of year. I hope people get out to the ballpark on this hot weekend to go see those boys. Mikey, where can people find you?
I'm on Facebook and Twitter at Mike Vorhies. Brian, where can they find you and us?
At Weathershaw, WXSHAW on Twitter, and we are Guardcast MLB on Twitter, MLB Guardcast on Facebook. Come check us out. We're also on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple.
There you go. Throw up the W's. Let's go, Guards. Vote for the All-Star game. Let's get our boys there. We'll see you soon, folks. Go Guards.
Talk to you in 2 weeks.